Nissan's chairman, Carlos Ghosn, was arrested in Japan in November. He has spent 2 months in custody. He is a legend in the auto world. Ghosn is suspected, though, of underreporting his income by tens of millions of dollars and transferring personal investment losses onto Nissan. Nissan and Mitsubishi both fired Ghosn as chairman soon after that arrest. He resigned as chairman and CEO of Francis Renault last week after the French government withdrew its support for him. Greg Kelly, a former top exec at Nissan, has also been indicted in that case. Ghosn and Kelly have both denied any wrongdoing, John.
All right, Christine Romans, thank you very much. Longtime NBC News anchor Tom Brokaw under fire for comments he made about Hispanics on Meet the Press. Listen to this.
I also happen to believe that the Hispanics should work harder at assimilation. That's one of the things I've been saying for a long time. You know, that they ought not to be just codified in their communities, but make sure that all of their kids are learning to speak English and that they feel comfortable in the communities. And that's going to take outreach on both sides, frankly.
Brokaw is now apologizing for those remarks in a series of tweets. He says he feels terrible. His comments on Hispanics offended some members of that proud culture. Again, this is what he says, adding he's worked hard to knock down those false stereotypes.
Okay, the government shutdown is over, but could come roaring back 3 weeks from now. Or maybe this was the shutdown to end all shutdowns. Senior political analyst John Avlon joins us with a reality check. John.
Allie. So hyperpartisanship is a hell of a drug. It fueled the longest shutdown in American history. And get this, less than 24 hours after Donald Trump waved the white flag, the official GOP Twitter account said this, quote, Democrats have held our government hostage for weeks, but thanks to President real Donald Trump's leadership, the government will reopen. Look, I get that their job is partisan spin, but that's a total rewriting of recent history. We all heard President Trump say he'd own the shutdown, and presumably that's why polls showed a majority of Americans blaming him for it. But what we've got here isn't an end to the shutdown as much as a 3-week ceasefire. The good news is there isn't much of an appetite on either side to shut down the government again. The bad news is that this new Congress combines a more conservative Senate with a much more liberal House. There is some common ground, though. Both sides have signaled support for things like more money for technology that can detect weapons and drugs at the border, more immigration judges, border patrol agents, and humanitarian aid for migrants. There may even be a shot at giving Dreamers a path to citizenship that could sweeten the deal significantly for Democrats. The wall, of course, that's the biggest sticking point. But even the president walked that one back a little bit.
We do not need 2,000 miles of concrete wall from sea to shiny sea. We never did.
And while some Democrats call the wall immoral, their party has voted for hundreds of miles of border walls and fences in the past. And some are now signaling they could support a technological smart wall, which means we're in for a high-stakes game of semantics, folks. And here's an irony alert. After the federal faceplant of the last 5 weeks, there is now bipartisan support in the Senate for a bill that would outlaw government shutdowns. Listen to Republican Senator Lamar Alexander, quote, shutting down the government should be as off limits in budget negotiations as chemical warfare is in real warfare. His GOP colleague, Senator Rob Portman, has more than a dozen co-sponsors for his bill to prevent shutdowns going forward. And Democratic Senator Mark Warner has a similar bill with a catchier